Good morning, Olympia. I've missed everybody on YouTube, and it's just really nice to be back. It's just kind of like a little quiet fall morning here, and there have been actually, bizarrely, changes since we were last connected. The little black top park got taken down. There is a homeless village that is maybe being built, and I'm not really too sure about the details of that. And then this appears to be expanding somewhat here. It just looks like we've got kind of I had actually thought that they had emptied this out. I have not been around this area for quite a while. Good morning, everyone. We're probably all sort of thinking about, you know, just the weirdness from yesterday and, you know, just kind of what's been, you know, going on. And it's just been...
What's wrong? Are you just recording this?
I'm just driving around and filming.
Yeah, I see that.
Good morning.
Kind of rude, you know. I'm sure you appreciate your privacy. Not everyone gets to have that.
And so, I'm not sure. I was just met with great hostility by what looked like a not homeless person. It looked like kind of one of the wealthy kids that live in the houses. So he's sort of acting maybe as a bully. And, you know, it's very interesting because that was really what we saw yesterday. Unfortunately, I watched part of that spectacle, and it was just almost triggering just to see the raunchiness and the cruelty of the left. Here we are at the Planned Parenthood. Can you see that up there? Planned Parenthood. And then beneath Planned Parenthood is where the Boom Gallery is, where the body part art is. Thank goodness I just got this doggy. I mean, that kid flew out of the house. I don't know if you saw me. I did try to get him on camera so that you could tell that's a rich kid. A lot of rich kids buy these houses. I mean, that particular one is owned by the dentist, although I did meet someone who knew a woman who lived in that house, and the dentist had not paid taxes on that house. And by the way, one of the body part art people's company's name is Plush Monster. Remember, this is the gift shop beneath the Planned Parenthood. So talk about some kind of evil deep magic that you're actually buying stuff that that's sitting in a place right underneath where abortions are being performed. I mean, really, if you want to talk about, you know, that just really leaves Aleister Crowley in the dust now, doesn't it? It really does. And, you know, it's like, do I want to get into it or not? With, I like that guy matches the Mountain Dew sign nicely, doesn't he? Help, am I almost sounding like that woman? It's just like so creepy. And that was, I believe, really the only reason I had watched it to begin with was because Christine, as some are calling her Christine Ballsy Fraud or whatever, very much reminded me of almost a composite, mostly of one person, but we can say that it would be a composite of several. There's some bossy, they have bossy pants cars here, don't they? Of some sort of composite of people that I knew, mainly 3 women, although I haven't really had a lot of time to digest or process this. It was just when I first saw her picture and saw that she was a psych major, not that psych majors aren't a sort of kind of dime a dozen easy degree thingy, but, you know, so I'm sure there's a lot out there. And I don't mean to put anyone down who's watching this who has a psychology degree. I really don't. There's a lot of interesting things about the human mind, but I'm just kind of bringing up the kind of dumbed down version of, and maybe I shouldn't say dumbed down, because she really made her act work for her, you know. And this person was from LA and went to prep schools in the East, had lived this very debauched kind of party scene life at one of the prep schools there that no longer exists. It was kind of a slightly more hippie prep school. And wow, there was something about the tonality and the inflections of the voice that were just completely like this person who I did meet in college, and who was manipulative enough, maybe you could say brilliant enough, she would find boyfriends who would write her papers for her. And one of the boyfriends didn't even get a degree himself. He was kind of broke and cut off from his family, and she sort of preyed upon this lonely guy. And it's weird just to think, here's this guy pumping gas who's the one that read the books and wrote the papers, and she never wrote one paper or read one book and was really proud of it, you know, like, haha, you know, I got some sucker to do it for me. All I have to do is show up to class, you know. And half the time he would drive her there and make sure she got there, because I think he was scared to death. What if she doesn't get a degree? Because I think that they had some sort of agreement, but then he just became done and dusted in her life. And it is weird to think of that there's some guy out there pumping gas who read and wrote all the papers, and there's a woman who, her degree, she wasn't PhD, but she was master's with a lot of things attached. Yes, there's been a fire since we last connected as well. And that was in the paper, that they didn't have fire alarms. And I talked to a woman who was asleep and almost died. And so where were we? We were somewhere, sorry you guys, with, and I'll try to get back to it. Sorry, I kind of went into the whole, oh my God, that fire thing. But yeah, so this person was, right, very proud of not having done anything or any work. It was like, you know, I just find people to write papers for me, you know. And she was kind of famous for that when I met her in undergraduate school, for showing up on people's doorsteps and just saying, oh my God, I'm totally panicked, you know, what am I going to do? I don't have my papers, you know, and just always doing that. And yet she was somehow brilliant enough in her knowledge of psychology to know what buttons to push to get people to do what it was she wanted to do. I remember meeting this guy who's now this kind of strange, probably CIA operative. Now he's a monk in Thailand, north of Chiang Mai. He's a forest monk there, but he's like all just deeply connected in with embassies and the underworld of Thailand and stuff. But I remember he said once, I tried to be her friend, but she just wanted, you know, a master, you know, a butler, maid, servant, or slave. And her father was he was military. He was not what I expected, though. I met him. I ended up knowing their family maybe all too well because of an internship that we did together in the area where she had grown up in LA. And so, like, I ended up just kind of knowing her life all too well. And wow, so her father was a lieutenant colonel in Vietnam, and she'd actually lived there with him, which was strange. So that sounds pretty MK Ultra right there, doesn't it? And the brother, who was 9 years older than her, 7 or 9 years older, who recently passed away actually this summer, he stayed in LA with the mother, who was a principal at a school in Watts during the Watts riots. I almost called it Rots, sorry. And so that was like a very deep MK Ultra family. This was before I even knew what MK Ultra was, but the time that I spent at their home back and forth between Culver City, where the school was, we were teaching at, which was the first school based on Summerhill in the U.S., which was kind of MK Ultra-ish, and going to her father's house. He was a lieutenant colonel in Vietnam, and his position was, he was the head of entertainment and liquor, and that was his job. So it's kind of like interesting. We might want to get more into that because there's a dissociative state that I saw in all three people, especially two. The other one kind of got tagged on more for her kind of crazed drinking behavior at parties and her kind of plainness and the fact that she went to Pepperdine as well as this Blasey Ford, that there was this kind of undeserved, you know, getting a great education, but just really just kind of being a bumpkin. And it was like she never tried, she never did anything, and yet, you know, just, you know, kind of Forrest Gumped it, I guess. And so I don't know as much about the mind control with her, although there are some strange aspects, but very, very much with the other two. And so this is weird because I'll put a link below to a really great video that I watched that immediately saw the CIA connections with the fact that she's a CIA intern, which you may already know, but it goes way deeper than that, that, you know, she found papers that this woman had written about giving psychotropics to kids, you know, to see how they would behave, you know, just like all the way creepy. And her dad being the James Bond of black op military budget. So in a weird way, you know, it is like, oh my God, this person never had a chance. I mean, when I think of that person I know, you know, the damage is maybe just so deep, but maybe I just can't stand them because I feel so damaged when I'm around them, and that they have this sucking energy, that they learn so deeply and so well how to manipulate, that they really learn that they can't do anything for themselves. You know, I remember one time reading somewhere that said fat people have really great intelligence, but it works against them because, you know, maybe they've learned how to, you know, open the refrigerator with their teeth and, you know, the food just slides out to them while they don't have to get up from their TV show. But, you know, there's something about, you know, getting up and down that's good for you. And this particular woman, I remember she stayed maybe about 10 years ago at a household I knew. She unfortunately did kind of wind up on the streets. She'd go between having really fancy, amazing jobs to just being like totally homeless, basically because her most of her family had died. But it was like my friend said, it was maybe the closest thing to royalty I'll ever have at my house. She never washed a cup. You know, it was like she would just sort of sit there in a kind of a regal splendor and just really manipulate others. She would just do anything she could to, and she lived in really messy kind of hovels, but she was so addicted to opiates, she would walk around them with her chin up in the air like she was in a grand mansion, you know, but it wasn't like someone who's just poor but has like a little hut and they do make it their true mansion. I've totally been in with people like that, you know, but this was like, oh my God, she took something. And I just recall like one time going with this guy, he didn't really know her, and she was living in a farmhouse then in Oregon, and we went there in the middle of the night for some reason, and the door opened and the whole place just smelled like just horrible, like dog poo, and it was just chaos and confusion. And there was this guy she was with, and he picked up this giant skillet, you know, your classic, you know, iron skillet. And he came towards us, and the food in it, you could tell it just been sitting there for days. And yet he was completely earnest. There was nothing in his voice where he was, and he said, come and have good vegetarian food with us. And, you know, they were sort of acting like they were in this beautiful Buddhist temple. And this place was just so horrible. You know, my friend was choking. I was having an asthma attack. We just told them they were wonderful and we hightailed it out. But I do recall that as we were leaving, she started to like take off her clothes and she said, I'm a model, I'm modeling, you know, and it's like winter in Oregon, and it's like this woman who hasn't brushed or washed her hair in, you know, a month. And it was just such a scene. And, you know, when I saw that woman, I also realized I did kind of put a couple of like just quick thoughts of what I first thought down on a couple of comment sections, but that was all. I really didn't want to be a troll, but there were just these thoughts that came to mind. And someone wrote back like, wow, you know, you really had insight into this person. Like, you really did know people like that. And I thought, wow, like a lot of people don't. And those people can be fooled. Even I was fooled by this person. I really feel silly about the times when I like cleaned her car for her. You know, she would just get people to do bizarre things for her. And, you know, she was always trying to get people to go to doctors to get like weird drugs for her, you know, and yet it's very MK Ultra. So I try to have compassion as well. But this is what we're up against. This is the hard left that has come into play. And it's really sad that we're around so many people that are so ignorant of what's going on that they could know. I've got a friend right now who has a roommate who makes fun of him because they think he's making it up that refugees are in Europe. And this guy, you know, was kind of like this artist, you know, this self-proclaimed, you know, actually had kind of a little bit of a moment of fame at one time. So everyone, just thank you. Thank you all, and have a great day. Have a blessed day. Bye.